Hey, welcome to the very first Simple Talks podcast. My name's Grant Fritchie. I work for Redgate Software. With me is
Ryan Booz. Work at Redgate, been a developer in databases for many years,
Cool.
focusing on Postgres for the last 6 already.
Yeah, I used to be a developer and a DBA, and also with me.
I'm Steve Jones. I work for Redgate as well as an advocate, and I run SQL Server Central for Redgate as well, and done a little bit of everything for 30 years, right? It's been a long time.
Oh, yeah, it's been a long time, a long career, and I love it. What are we talking about today?
Well, first, this is our first episode
Oh,
Yes.
cool.
of
Awesome.
a new podcast called
Simple Talks.
Simple Talks. And so it's going to be a mix of people from Redgate. You'll probably see our faces a few times. And then Lewis, who is the editor of simpletalk.com, is going to do a number of interviews just throughout the community. And so we're excited to get something started.
Yeah, should be fun.
All right, so we wanted to look at some highlights. So we're as we record this, right? We're near the end of H1 2024.
Right.
Yep.
So what are your highlights about events this year for you guys?
Events. Wow.
You've been to a lot, Grant. So where have
Yeah.
you been this year?
Wow, God, I've been all over. Let's break it down. We've got, Redgate Events. I've been to several of those. Atlanta, Chicago. Chicago was amazing. And then I've been to paid events, SQL Bits. I can say nice things about SQL Bits. But then also the community events, and I love community events. I think they're actually my favorite. The most recent one I was at was Data Saturdays Stockholm.
So what was your favorite of those events?
Oh, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. That'll get me in trouble.
Top 3. No, I'm just kidding. So talk about those. You've been at all those things. So talk about first of all, the Redgate events, just because it's something we're trying to better understand within the community.
Sure. Well, the Redgate events, the goal is to do 2 things. A, share knowledge, educate the community. We are very focused on community. We always have been at Redgate. And our own events, we focus on sharing real knowledge and promoting Redgate stuff.
Sure.
But it is and. It's not a or kind of thing for us. We want to promote knowledge and talk about Redgate.
Well, we've done something different, right, with the Redgate Summits this year, right?
Oh,
Where
right.
we're not
That's
just
right.
doing Redgate product stuff. We've done a number of kind of generic thought leadership things, which has been interesting, right, for us.
Oh, yeah.
Because you've had panels, I've had panels where we're not talking about Redgate at all, right? We do have engineers that do that, but we talk about different things.
Yeah. Well, we've been spending a lot of time talking about leadership, the dealing with the fact that there's a knowledge gap out there. The way technology is moving so fast, multi-platform, and how do people who are managing DBAs and developers and whatnot, how do they deal with that? And we've had several different. I've been on 3 different panels on that topic, and it's been amazing to hear what people say.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So these vendor events are nice in that if you're interested in their products, right, it's good to go.
Sure.
But there's also some other knowledge, at least from the Redgate events, that have been kind of
Yeah.
interesting to go. So,
That's awesome.
all right. Ryan, where have you been this year?
I've been primarily to community events.
Okay.
Again, the focus being Postgres. I've been in Belgium for a couple open source community events. One's called FOSDEM. It's something that's been happening for like probably close to 25 years. It's just a huge open source community event, runs for 4 days. So that was really cool. And then a number of US and European Postgres events. So there's anytime you see an event that is called PG Day, PGConf, something like that, that is a conference organized by the official, unofficial, really the official team, what we call the core team that's running PostgreSQL.org. So open source project, but there are folks that have been a part of the project for 30 years. And so they're trying to revitalize and re-engage on some of these things. And so a lot in Europe, a couple in the US that we're trying to get going.
Well, is there any big difference between, say, a community, PG Day event and an open source event? Is there any real distinction? Other than topic, obviously.
Yeah, great question. Usually, obviously, topic-wise, just more eclectic.
Sure.
Something like Scale in California and Pasadena, again, just been around for a long time, and so it's very diverse. might have a MySQL track and a Postgres track, and then a ham radio track, and right. So there's lots of just that concept of all of this is for the community. We do this work. We're committed to open source, and so it's just interesting to see the various. You talk about communities, see the attitudes towards open source among each of those different groups of people.
Right.
Some are much more like 100% open source, nothing changes.
Right.
And some understand the need to have paid support for this thing that also we want to make sure stays open source. So
yeah, absolutely.
Are those all free events, the community events, like free to the attendees, right?
Some of them are.
Some of them are.
But for the most part, they're pretty low cost. I think Scale is $75, something like that. And the Postgres events are, marginal, a couple $100 at best, at most.
And a lot of the community events will charge for lunch.
And that's mostly what it is.
Where have you been?
Boy,
where haven't you
I've been all over.
I really have.
So I was thinking about that because I didn't realize. So I've actually been to 2 developer events this year. So I went to that conference in Austin. So that is a conference primarily for developers. That's twice a year, once in Wisconsin, once in Austin.
Right.
And so I went last year to Wisconsin. This year in January I went to Austin, which was neat. Actually learned to pick a lock while I was there.
I know, super fun.
So they have a lot of open talks and various topics, right? People just do whatever they want in an open space. But I deliver some database talks there to developers. And then just last week at the end of May, I was at the Denver Dev Days. And I think this was their 17th event. So twice a year in Denver, the developers will do an event in the Microsoft office. And I went and spoke there, again, about data stuff. And I think for the SQL side, I've only been to a user group this year. I haven't been any other event.
Not even SQL Saturdays.
None. Like I've had conflicts with other stuff because I've done a number of the Redgate DevOps workshops in a day.
Right.
And then the summit, so I just haven't had a chance to do anything else. But I have been, in the US and in Europe and Australia this year for events. So
wow, that's all over.
For you, what's the difference between, a lot of your career has been just around database folks primarily. So starting to go to some of these developer events, what's unique about it? Or what are some things that you find different or intriguing maybe?
So the developers were super interesting just because they're very focused on code and solving problems, and they really are always looking for tips, tricks, techniques, and things.
Sure.
But they are very interested in the database side because it is something they don't know well. And I think the people that are willing to go spend a day at a conference are willing to learn things. Right. They're willing to grow and learn. And so they are interested in how do we get better at solving problems, which I think is fascinating. At that conference I talked about zero downtime deployments, and for them it was a lot like how do we change an API, right? It's a similar type of thing because if I change an API, I can't break stuff, right? I have to keep the old API and new API going for some period of time, which is similar to what we do in database, right? Because I'm kind of maintaining state across time, so I don't break things.
Sure.
So.
I know when we were at that conference last summer, everyone in the room is developer.
Yes.
But a lot of them recognize they wear that other hat. Like, yes, I'm primarily a developer, but no one else is maintaining the database. So I need to better understand this exactly. It's just really interesting to have this conversation.
Yeah.
All right, hang on. The old man's got to change. So 1, 2, 3. All right, there we go.
Right.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, the developers, there's, I think, an excitement in moving forward sometimes where I think in the database folks, we get concerned about availability, data loss, other things. So there's a conservatism or a carefulness sometimes.
Yeah.
And they're, while they are excited about some things, moving to an analytics or warehousing or some of that stuff, they also are a little more cautious in making change.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my favorite word is no.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to the second half of the year.
Yep.
Right.
Get a little bit of a break here in the summer. A lot of conferences kind of back off. People need to do their stuff. And
Not completely.
Not completely, but
I got a community conference coming up in July.
Where are you going?
You do too.
Yeah.
Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge, yeah. A SQL Saturday, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
SQL Saturday, Baton Rouge.
Yeah, it'd be my first SQL Saturday this year. Yours as well?
I've lost track. I don't know.
Yeah. Because you've done a few data Saturdays, right?
I've done several data Saturdays, yeah.
So
I'm not sure. It might be my first SQL Saturday of the year. I can't remember.
It'll be my first one, which I'm excited about because I'll actually have Baton Rouge. I'll have Denver in August, and I don't know. There's a number in the fall, right? So Boston, Orlando, Minnesota, I think, is set to go.
I'm not going to make Boston.
There's a bunch of others. San Diego just said they're going to do an event in September as well, which I don't know.
Seriously?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it'll be the tail end of a trip over here, so it'll be timing will be tough.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, another community event I'm going to in the fall will be Data Saturdays Holland in Utrecht. Yeah, I got that right.
Very cool. Nice.
But it's also a paid event there the next week called Techorama, which is a more. I don't want to say it's a dev event, but it's more dev focused. It's a lot more developers than data people.
Yeah, and Techorama is another one of those that's twice a year.
Twice a year, but in two different locations.
Two different locations.
I
Yeah,
didn't realize that. You love Techorama.
I love Techorama.
And why is that? What's so unique?
There is nothing in the world like presenting on a 4-story high movie screen.
Okay, that's true.
It is just insanely awesome. But you've done that.
I have done that. Yeah, there's an event. It wasn't able to make this year. It just happened in the U.S. called Star Trek, and same deal. Ran out an entire movie theater. All the talks are in the biggest theaters.
Right.
And enormous screens. It's like, oh, I don't need to zoom on anything.
Yeah. If anything, I need to zoom out.
So.
Is Star Trek in the U.S. that works?
It is in the U.S. So
where is that?
In Ohio, there's actually a number of. So in Ohio, you have Cincinnati, Cleveland,
Columbus.
and Columbus, and Columbus and Cleveland had been tech hubs for a while.
Yes.
And really, Microsoft had a huge presence there, along with, at the time, Sun Microsystems had Java and so forth. And so there's just a really big SQL Server .NET community. Probably every quarter there's at least one fairly major developer conference in Ohio.
Huh.
And they're just really well run.
That's cool. Yeah. Now, where are you going at H2?
So H2, I will be, so again, a couple more Postgres conferences. We'll be in New York, right here in London. They're doing their second PG Day UK.
I've submitted.
Yeah.
Please pick me.
So really excited about that. And again, this is about the community prior to the pandemic.
Right.
Sure.
Had a lot more, and so just slowly trying to figure out how to open those things back up. And then hopefully PG Day, or PGConf EU, which is in Greece this year, which is really the biggest Postgres conference still, post-pandemic, the biggest conference in the world is the European one. And for obvious reasons, it's easy to get almost anywhere in the EU within a couple of hours, and so lots of people, it's just easy to make that happen.
Yeah, Prague last year was amazing. Amazing.
It really was a very well-run conference.
Yeah, great conference.
And then last but not least, all the little things sprinkled in there, probably one or two developer conferences I submitted to, but in November.
Yeah, there's a thing going on in Seattle. I've heard about it.
Is it any good?
It's okay.
Okay.
No, it's fantastic.
Yeah, really excited.
Yeah, Pass Summit is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Where are you going? Other than Pass Summit, he's going to Pass Summit.
Yeah, so the Pass Summit is coming. I actually wasn't picked in the community session, but I'm sure I'll do something for Redgate there, so I'll be there, right? You weren't picked either.
I wasn't picked either.
You were.
He was.
Yeah. We were finalizing the sessions earlier.
We're doing a pre-con.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, they're doing a
really
pre-con.
excited about.
I forgot about my pre-con, and I am excited about the pre-con.
Yeah. Now I don't know, are we allowed to say what
Why
the pre-con
we're making
is
a pre-con?
based on?
Yeah, the pre-cons are out. Pre-cons are
They're out.
Yeah, but what? I think we can say it.
I think we can.
My boss over saying
Okay,
we can say
so
it.
we can say it.
Yeah,
So we're doing something new this year.
we are doing something new
I'm
this
doing
year.
something new.
Oh, it's new for him.
This is
well, it's
for
the
you.
topic is new for me.
Yeah. So we're Grant and I have been working together on a new Postgres book, really called Intro to Postgres, PostgreSQL. And really the goal is recognize that so many of the people in the communities we've had for all these years are exploring cross-database, and Postgres comes up as one of them predominantly. And so the goal is to have some printed copies in hand by PASS.
Yeah, well, good luck on that. All right, so enough on the book, because that is giving me agita. Why would people go to events? I mean, is there a reward for going to a paid event versus going to a community event?
Here's an interesting thing, right? So you and I have been doing this a long time, right? You're just a little bit younger, but I remember
kidding. He's
when
a lot younger.
Like Microsoft used to run lunch sessions, and I would go there from work and go watch somebody speak for an hour, or go to the user group every month. And to me, it was a great way to kind of bootstrap or get going on certain pieces of technology that I didn't know anything about, or ask questions of people that I was struggling with at work.
Sure.
And I think at a lot of events that still happens.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Right, that I'll pop into a session that, you know, like Fabric, where I just know very little about it.
Yeah.
Or even like a few years ago, when Azure Data Factory came out, I popped into a session by Ed Pollack, and he kind of explained how it was. I was like, you know, now I have an idea of how it relates to SSIS, what's possible, lightly how it works.
Sure.
And so I think that, you know, for a lot of people, that's where they start, is just gaining knowledge, right? Just, it's a quick way to learn something like we might have done in university or in college or in high school, where you just had a class, right? And you just go see something.
Right.
It's funny you say that. That's exactly what happened to me in conferences with SQL Server. You know, I've been using SQL Server for probably 6-7 years at that point. We were doing fine, but there was just a couple little things that we were just struggling with. And I remember I'd gotten done with a kind of pre-con, actually it was Code Mash in Ohio, and this SQL Server guy was talking. I was like, oh, end of the day, he only has a half hour left, and I popped in, and it was like one of his last comments. It was almost an offhanded comment about a trace flag. I was like,
That's
that solves our problem. I can't believe that. And that just, man, I was in.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember when that happened too. I mean, my first past summit in 2005, exactly the same thing. I mean, so I mean, obviously, one of the things you go to for a conference is knowledge.
Knowledge, yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the big one. I mean, honestly, it's the big one. It's the big reason to go. But I mean, again, is there a major difference between a paid event and a free event?
Not necessarily, right? Like, I do think the paid events, they've curated the tracks a little bit. Like, we've been doing it for the past Data Community Summit, helping with that, right? They are, I don't want to say better speakers. You know, I think on average you get more experienced speakers that have had some more practice in delivering knowledge. And so I think the quality can be better, but not necessarily, because a lot of us, a lot
of us go to community events. Yeah.
You know, and a lot of the same speakers that go to large conferences will come to a community event. I mean, I guess, you know, paid conferences sometimes are larger.
Yeah, I think.
Right.
I think it's to me, it's if you're going to a paid event, it's the size is a big part of it. I mean,
a big part of it.
Because
Right?
you can't run a 5,000 person event for free. You know what I mean? So
you can't, right? I do think, you know, paid conferences tend to be, like I said, a little more focused and curated. Like, there's a Fabric conference, or you know, some of these more niche type things. Whereas community events, they often just take what they get, right? So you get this wide spectrum of stuff, less amenities, of course. You know, often I think, right, we've seen a lot of events occur on Saturdays so that you're taking time out of your life to go, whereas most paid conferences are not on the weekends.
Yep.
True.
Right.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the paid events are often just an experience as well, and that's something that I know the thing that I've always really appreciated about the transition, you know, again, pre-pandemic, from SQL Saturdays up into the main event, as it were, is just the continuation of community around an event that's an experience combining everything, right? It's high quality content, but you still have the community that you've been getting to know, and we're all going to be there. And so it's fun to find those kind of events. Not all of them are like that. You can have a huge Google event or something like that.
Right.
Just, it is what it is.
Feels almost impersonal. Well, I mean, you mentioned a couple of times the community and the events. Obviously, you know, we already said it's for content, right? Content's king.
Yeah.
But why else would you go to an event?
Well, I think first and foremost is the hallway track. I mean,
the hallway track,
just to learn and meet people. You know, I think we say that almost any time people ask, you know, what are 3 tips you'd give? And everybody I know would say, not just hallway track, but don't be afraid to go talk to speakers. You know, people that you've learned from, and you know they're really willing and actually really enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that was a big thing for me at paid conferences early, is just walking up to the stage at the end and either listening to what other people ask.
Sure.
Because this is a great way to get knowledge.
Yeah.
Asking my own question. But just, you know, saying hi to somebody. And for somebody that was very introverted early in my career, it was an interesting experience to just take the chance to go say, hey, hi, thank you for your talk. Ask a question or not, or make a comment.
Yeah.
And have that grow into learning how to network with other people and build relationships with people in your industry and your community.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I enjoyed going up and saying thanks. I mean, that was a big thing for me, just be able to go up to somebody, I've read their articles or I've read their books, or just go up and say, thanks for what you do, really made a difference, you know what I mean? And
yeah, I mean, I think it helps you grow as a person. Like at larger events, I think you meet people that maybe you would contact in the future or not, but at community events, local events, that's the people that you likely may work with, may help you find a job. You may help them find a job, right? Like it is really your community.
Yeah.
Well, and I've always said, you want to go to the local events, you want to go to the local meetups or the local user groups or the local, data, SQL, PG, Saturday day things, because all of the other people at that event are the ones that you want to talk to, because they're the ones that are taking some time out of their workday or taking some time out of a weekend to go and learn. Well, yeah, God, those are the people I want to associate with, and you are your network, right? It's I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know everything.
Right.
But when I hit an HA problem, I might send an email to Alan Hurt because I know that guy real well, and
definitely.
It's funny you said it, 'cause that's what, as you guys were talking, I was just thinking that one of the other things that has really been beneficial to me with events is having that initial connection. But when I can't help, having a cache of people now, like, oh, I heard a talk by this person, I got to say hello to them, maybe had a connection. You know what? Here's some contact. I bet they can help you, because it's beyond what I'm able to do for you, right?
Sure.
So I love being able to make those connections, right? Because it expands that person's community and network.
Yeah, everybody's network gets bigger. I mean, yeah.
Fun. Yeah, and sometimes you just get inspired. I think maybe one of the biggest things sometimes is, I got to ask a question to Grant, but I hear Ryan say something, and I talk to Ryan for a few minutes, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, wow, I didn't think about that, right? Or did you think about this? And we grow not even from the expert or the speaker, but just the other person in the room that may have a similar problem.
Sure, absolutely, right? Yeah. So, and let's be fair, the speakers don't always have all the answers.
No. But I mean, I think just actively engaging when you go to an event and trying to meet some people, trying to grow yourself, just helps you become maybe more of a professional, or maybe just advance in your career a little bit. Like they're good skills you need, whether you plan on speaking, not speaking, right? But just interviewing with jobs, getting to know other people in your company. It's just a good skill.
And obviously, we're all, a lot of us are introverts. I'm an introvert. No one believes me, but it's hard. So I mean, it is work. All right. Well.
Wait, last thing.
Okay, go for it.
Get swag when you go and bring it back.
Bring back swag to your office. Absolutely.
Your office, people love that stuff, and it encourages other people then to think about going.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Great.
Anything else you want to close with?
No, I'm just I'm excited to be able to do some more of these.
I love
that we chose events to start with, because there's a lot coming up, and honestly, it's one of the reasons that we enjoy getting engaged. I love that part of this.
So come to some events. I think most of us have a travel schedule published somewhere, right? Like I have it on my blog.
I gotta
update doesn't,
mine.
Right? But pick an event. Like we have some Redgate events coming, community events. There's obviously paid conferences if you can get your company to do that. And please just come say hi, right?
Yeah, please. Yeah, just say hi.
So
cool.
All right.
Well, that's Simple Talks number 1.
That sounds great.
Excellent. All right.
Talk to you guys.
You too.
All right. See you next time.